What's going on, guys? Happy Victory Monday for the fourth week in a row. It's so exciting. How are you guys doing? Hopefully good. Hopefully good. Hopefully we're having a good start to our week because as Patriots fans, we actually have a bit of a short week as well. They play on Thursday against the Falcons. So this week is going to be a little bit interesting as far as my streams go. Today we'll talk about the game against the Browns yesterday. And depending on how the week goes, I might be able to go again on Wednesday to talk about the Thursday game. And then I'll see you guys again on Friday. So we have a busy week, but a lot of exciting things to talk about. Let's just jump right in. And again, we're going to go over the game. How I like to do it now is drive by drive for the most part, because obviously this was a blowout win. So there's not a lot of great things to talk about drive by drive as far as like the Browns drives go. So let's just start it off, get right into it. So this game, I think, was going to be super interesting from the beginning because of the injuries coming into the game. So we know with the Browns, they had put Nick Chubb and some other running backs on the COVID list. And there had been time that they would be able to come back for the game. Unfortunately, that did not happen for them. So Nick Chubb was out, as well as basically every running back. Kareem Hunt is still on IR, so that left to Ernest Johnson to carry the load, basically for the entire backfield. The Patriots had a few players out as well. I think Jonnu Smith was probably the most surprising. We know he's been dealing with injuries, specifically his shoulder, which is what kept him out again yesterday, for a while now, for a few weeks. But it seems like he's been playing through those. And I think because Damian Harris was not cleared from concussion protocol, and neither was Gunnar Olszewski, we thought that, or a lot of people thought that Johnny was going to be used in like a halfback, fullback type of role in the game. And that did not happen. That actually ended up being on Onwenu, if we're being honest. He reported as eligible quite a few times throughout this game. It would have been really awesome if we had actually seen a play with him involved, but we didn't. So that was interesting. It was going to be, I was kept calling it the battle of the non-existent, of the absent running backs, because both teams were struggling in that area. And that definitely was a good thing for the Patriots as far as the Browns go, as you'll see in a little bit. We also saw the return of Trent Brown, a Patriot favorite. Trent Brown, we finally saw him back after not playing since game 1, which feels like forever ago. And he had a great return. And hopefully he can stay healthy and keep playing for the rest of the season. You don't sign a guy, you don't bring him back for him to be on IR. So I'm hoping that he didn't really tweak anything yesterday. There was a point in the game where he was on the sideline, and on Onwenu or Isaiah Wynn was in his place. I can't remember off the top of my head. So he did end up coming back in the game, but just hoping that nothing really got tweaked or anything, because that offensive line has come a long way since the beginning of the year. And with Trent Brown playing as fantastically as he did yesterday, it would be a huge positive for the offensive line and Mac Jones if we can keep him in. So let's start with the first drive, which was the Browns. Patriots won the toss and deferred. So this is when things got a little bit interesting. I wasn't expecting this game to be blowout by any means, and I'm not sure if anybody really did. I was expecting this to be a decent scoring game, probably both in the 20s, and for not to necessarily be a shootout, but definitely a more competitive game, with the Browns coming off such a huge win against the Bengals, and they were also 5-4. So there was a lot riding on the line for both teams, especially in the playoff race. So I was thinking that this game was going to be a lot better than it was. We know that Baker has been dealing with a shoulder injury, and he hurt himself yesterday. I think they said a leg contusion or an arm I can't remember exactly. And when he was cleared, I guess, by the medical staff on the sideline, I guess according to Stefanski, he was able to go back in, but they ended up keeping him out. At that point, I'm sure it just wasn't worth it. So Matt says that opening defensive drive doesn't count for the Patriots. Yeah, no, it started out pretty rough, and that always kind of like sets your mood for when the game starts. So seeing how this played out on the first drive was a little bit scary for me. It was 11 plays, 4 yards, 4 minutes, 55 seconds, which resulted in a touchdown, the only touchdown by the Browns all game long, which is even crazy to say. Special teams was pretty good in this game as well. The Browns started on their own 16-yard line. Right away, they came out with Ernest Johnson. So, he was basically the only running back in the game for the Browns, and they started with him pretty quickly. And he had a pretty good day despite the lack of scoring by the Browns. I mean, he had, I think, nearly 100 on the ground, and he was also involved in the passing game. So, and if you had him in fantasy, he probably did pretty well for you yesterday. Wasn't expecting that, but when you're the only guy there, I guess it works out for you. Also at the beginning on this drive is when we were seeing a Hightower and Barmore. So Barmore is someone that I've talked about quite a bit on here, that he doesn't seem to get the acknowledgement that he deserves. He is a fantastic guy on this defense, and for a rookie, it's a bit insane that he's playing as well as he has been. It's kind of like with Onwenu last year, where he was playing so great as a rookie on the offensive line. Like, it's amazing. So Barmore, I think he's definitely benefiting from the tons of veteran leadership on the defense. There's not, he's like the only rookie, I think. So him and Hightower started off pretty hot early, getting in on this drive with making some good tackles. And Jalen Mills did seem to like tweak his hand a little bit. It seems like he came back in the game, so I'm not sure, but definitely something to monitor as the week goes on. We almost saw oh, wait. No, I'm getting ahead of myself. So we saw some good stuff from Devin McCourty as well. Johnson came out hot with getting a big 24-yard gain. McCourty did end up stopping him, which was great, but that very easily could have been a touchdown. I forgot about that. This drive was a mess to begin with, and I feel like this is kind of like what we've seen a lot of from the Patriots defense, where they start off very slow and then they get you super nervous, like that's going to be for the entirety of the game. And they'll let the opponent score and they get better. But this definitely had that same feeling at the very beginning of the game. Fortunately, Johnson was not able to score at that point. And then the penalties came in. Carl Davis for encroachment. Adrian Phillips had a great pass up on Njoku on 2nd and goal. There was a near interception by McCourty, which is another theme in this game. There was quite a few near interceptions in this game. So I can't even imagine how many they would have added up. I think they would have I have it written like probably around 4 that could have happened. That's, I think, including the one that they actually got. So definitely not a strong game for Baker Mayfield or Case Keenum. And then, like I said, they did score on this drive, of course. It was a score by Austin Hooper. So the Browns took over 7-0 pretty quickly. After the game, Judon was asked about like what was going on for the defense after this first drive and how they were able to score so quickly. And he said that the defense decided to attack instead of playing on their heels. And I think that is something that they need to do more often, because it does seem a lot that they are just waiting for something to happen and then react instead of trying to make sure it doesn't happen. And I think that seeing the Browns come out and score so quickly kind of gave them a wake up call pretty early on, which I mean, the rest of the game, the defense played nearly flawless. So, if that's something that they need, then I guess good for them. But we definitely do not want to keep seeing this happen at the beginning of games. We don't want to see the opponent scoring so easily and so quickly. Never want to play from behind, as I've said on here quite a few times as well. So the Patriots took over for their first drive, 15 plays, 83 yards, 9 minutes and 39 seconds. I don't know why, when I saw that it took nearly 10 minutes to get this score, why I was surprised. I didn't feel like it was that long of a drive, but I apparently that's accurate. So this one did end up in a touchdown as well. So we have Brandon Bolden returning kicks in Gunner's absence. He ran it out to the 17-yard line. Hunter Henry got 12 yards on a 3rd and 8. Then Meyers came in for 7 yards on 3rd and 6. They were using a lot of the run game on this one too, between Bolden and Stevenson. And then we did get a glimpse a little bit throughout the game of J.J. Taylor, obviously with Damian Harris out, who has been the RB1. They have to spread the ball as much as possible. J.J. Taylor didn't, he was in and used for small yardage plays, nothing fancy, nothing amazing, but always good to use as many of them as you can, obviously. There was a penalty on Shaq Mason. I'm keeping track of the penalties as much as I can because that has been an issue this year. There was holding, so that brought them to 1st and 20. Interesting too. How did you guys feel about this? Let me know. I thought it was pretty cool to see how much Kendrick Bourne was being used in the running game as well. He seems like a very versatile player, much more versatile than I think people have been giving him credit for, especially when they signed him. I know a lot of people weren't particularly excited about him, but you can see that he can do basically anything in this offense. We've seen him now have rushing plays. He can get a deep ball. He can throw touchdowns. Like, this guy is pretty great. He's like a Swiss Army knife. He can do everything. So that, started off pretty quickly. We saw him. He got 15 yards. We saw Aguilar in the first drive as well. He got 11 yards on 1st and 10. And it just kept going. I mean, they just kept getting big yardage plays after big yardage plays. Mac did get sacked by Myles Garrett over Isaiah Wynn for a loss of 7 yards. But it's okay because Bolden got 20 yards on a pass on 3rd and 13. And then, of course, we love the combination of Mac Jones and Hunter Henry. And this drive ended in another touchdown to Hunter Henry, making the score 7-7. That connection seems to be strong. We've seen it now how many games in a row? What is this? 7 touchdowns? Well, it'll be 7 touchdowns, I think, in like 6 games. So fantastic for Hunter Henry. He's definitely coming through. That tight ends that the team needed so desperately that they haven't had basically since Gronk. So I love to see that connection, especially with Jonnu Smith dealing with injuries. We haven't been able to really get a good grasp on that connection between him and Max. So thank goodness for Hunter Henry. So the next drive, the Browns took over, had the ball for 38 seconds. This was the lovely play that I ended up missing. I think I went and got something to eat, or I went to the bathroom or something, unfortunately. This was a 3rd and 7 on their own 22-yard line. This pass was intended for Njoku, and it was intercepted by one of my favorite players, Kyle Duggar, and it was returned for 37 yards. So that was just a perfect setup play, especially by the guys on the line: Shaq Mason, Ted Karras, Jakob Johnson, Isaiah Wynn. Even N'Keal Harry was being used in this game to block. And I think they're probably going to be doing that a lot more often because he did fantastic yesterday. I mean, if they're not going to use him a lot in the passing game, which at this point it doesn't seem like they are, if they can use him on the line as a blocker, then I'm saying go for it because he played really great yesterday. And he was a contributor to on this next drive. So very interesting to see that. I don't know. I don't think anyone was really expecting that, but they haven't really been using him in general. So maybe this is something that they've seen in practice. I don't know. Maybe are they trying to move him to a different position? I don't know. Patriot X says Mac Jones, Hunter Henry equals Tom Brady and Gronk. I like the connection. I'm just a little bit hesitant on making that comparison yet, but I like the optimism, and I would love to see that if that is something that could actually happen. If we could have Mac Jones as the Patriots quarterback playing at this level for many years to come and be blessed enough to have Hunter Henry for many years as well, I'm all for it. Ron94 says Hunter Henry was the best signing on offense. Yeah, he's definitely, holding up his end of the bargain for, you can see why Belichick was, having a crush on him for so many years. So I was really excited about his signing. It still feels kind of unreal when you think about it. But very exciting to see how well he's doing. And so far, I'm knocking on my desk, knock on wood. I'm not really dealing with any injury since that was a huge concern with his signing because he has dealt with quite a bit throughout his career. So the Patriots took over one play, 5 yards, 5 seconds, touchdown by Stevenson. Patriots up 14-7. The Browns take over for their third drive, which resulted in a punt. So nothing too exciting here. I'm not going to go into detail. There was another penalty on the Patriots on this one, though, on Josh Uche for offsides, which did set them up for 3rd and 4 on their own 40. And there was another almost interception by J.C. Jackson, which would have just been too good to be true. Back-to-back interception plays, but it did not happen. And this drive, as I said, ended in another punt. The Patriots took over for their third drive, 11 plays, 99 yards, 6 minutes and 11 seconds, another touchdown. This is very exciting to type up, guys. Typing up things that happened that were good is always fun. So they started on their own 1 yard line. That made me a little bit nervous. I'm not going to lie. But I mean, I guess we don't have to be nervous about 90-yard drives because, they had 3 of them yesterday that resulted in a score. So Stevenson was definitely the main playmaker again on this drive. He had gains of 18 on 3rd and 1. This is when we saw J.J. Taylor come in, and he made a few short gains, but still valuable. There was a deep pass to Meyers for 26 yards, a big pass to Kendrick Bourne for 23. And that one resulted in a touchdown. That one was really exciting too. You could tell he fought for it. He landed kind of awkwardly, if I can remember correctly. But again, Kendrick Bourne was a huge playmaker yesterday. So thankful for Kendrick Bourne and how great he's been so far. He's one of my favorites. Okay, I have a lot of favorites, but Kendrick Bourne was a favorite coming into the season, and he's definitely become another, just a strong favorite, I think, among Patriots Nation for sure. Becker the Beast says, hey. I say, hi. Ron84 says 1-2 punch Stevenson and Harrison and Bolden both passing running backs. Yes, I was happy to see that they were able to incorporate Stevenson more in the passing game as well. We know that Bolden has been used like that for years. And Harris has kind of picked up on it, but it seems like he's more of a true running back. And I felt that way with Stevenson as well. But yesterday, he did get involved in a few passing plays. So the fact that they have dynamic players at that position is super important, especially when you're dealing with injuries like the Patriots are. And on this drive too, which was crazy, guys, I don't know if you even noticed this. I didn't know it, I think, until I was reading about it. But on that drive, the 99-yard drive, is when Mac had his first incompletion of the game, which is he started 7 for 7 and 5 for 5 on 3rd down. So his first incompletion came in the second quarter. That's insane. He had a nearly perfect day yesterday, and it's really awesome to see that from a rookie. It's very promising, especially because I think a lot of people are kind of trying to downplay this game because it's like, oh, it was just the Browns, but that's not accurate. They had the third ranked defense and the fact that Mac was barely touched in this game and barely hurried. He threw a ton from the pocket. There's no reason to eliminate the competitiveness simply because of the score. The Browns had an amazing game last week against a division rival, and the Bengals have not been a team that's played horribly this year. So, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where, it's the Patriots. People want to downplay as much as they can. And, if you watch the games, you can see that there's no reason to be downplaying it. Mac is playing phenomenally, especially for a rookie. I feel like you would never know that he was a rookie. If you weren't a fan of the team and maybe just a casual watcher of football, unless you were told, I don't think there would be any way you would know. Let's see. This was also the first 99-yard drive in 10 years, guys. Since September 18th, 2011 versus the Chargers. It's only the third 99-yard touchdown drive under Bill Belichick in general. And the only other two came in the same season, like I said, versus the Chargers in week 2 of the 2011 season and week 1 versus the Dolphins in the same year, which is crazy that it's been that long. It just shows you how good the Patriots special teams are to not have to do a 99-yard drive continuously. Because I feel like you see that a lot more often with other teams. That's definitely not something that the Patriots usually have to worry about. The Browns took over for their fourth drive, also resulted in another punt. A short pass was thrown to Johnson, but it was forced out of bounds by Judon and Kyle Van Noy. So again, we're seeing a lot of good stuff from Kyle Van Noy. Started off pretty quietly, but the last handful of games has been really good. There was also a fumble by Johnson that was almost recovered by Uche, but he came up too slowly, and it was recovered by the Browns. But it resulted in a punt, so all is good. The Patriots then take over for their fourth drive, resulting in a field goal. There was an incomplete pass that would have ended their drive. It was 3rd and 5, but there was a defensive pass interference called on Cleveland, so they got a new set of downs. Stevenson had another big run for 16 yards, Bourne with 11 on 1st and 10. We saw another big pass to Hunter Henry, but that was negated because of an illegal use of the hands by Isaiah Wynn, which is another issue that we'll get into shortly. Isaiah Wynn has quite a few penalties this year, so that is a huge problem. He had a better day yesterday. There were some moments that were certainly not good, but the penalties are not good. He's been flagged 7 times this season, which included yesterday. And 5 of them have occurred inside of the opponent's 35-yard line. So I feel like in some of these, of course, the refs are being a little bit stingy and just kind of calling things, but definitely something to work on because, penalties at the beginning of the season were a big problem for the team. And getting flagged this close to scoring anything, a field goal or a touchdown, is obviously not good. And Isaiah Wynn has kind of always been, he's kind of struggled a bit since he was signed just a few years ago. So this is not helping his situation either, especially now that Trent Brown is back. They'll easily just swap him out and put Trent in. And then there was a pass on 3rd and 14 was deflected by Myles Garrett. So that forced a 38-yard field goal, bringing the score Browns 7, Patriots 24. That was the 42nd straight field goal made by Nick Folk, and it is the longest streak in the NFL. So our kicker is not being recognized for how great he is, guys. He's kind of flying under the radar and not being appreciated by people as much as we appreciate him. We love GOAT Nick Folk, right? Thank goodness they have found someone. I mean, obviously Nick Folk is on the older side. I think he's like, 37, 38? I don't remember. So he's definitely not going to be around for a lot longer necessarily, but I'm glad that they finally have a guy who is accurate and consistent, because that is something that they have been missing for quite a few years, basically since before Gostowski got hurt before he hurt his back, because that was a rough season, his last year in New England. And then the Browns did take over before halftime, but there was basically nothing happening there. So in the first half, the Browns' first drive was 11 plays, 84 yards, 6 first downs, 7 points. Their last 3 drives before the half were 11 plays, 23 yards, 2 first downs, and 0 points. So very rough for the Browns. Fantastic showing by the Patriots defense once again, holding a potentially explosive offense to basically nothing after that first drive. Mac Jones had a great first half as well, 13 of 15, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Stevenson had 78 rushing yards and a touchdown in the first half, which was already a record for him. And Mac, like I said a little bit earlier, he was only pressured on one of his 16 dropbacks, which is the one that he got sacked on. And since he wasn't hurried basically at all, he was 12 of 14 for 123 yards and 2 touchdowns inside the pocket. So kudos to that offensive line, because man, we were really going in on them at the beginning of the year. They deserved it, but they've come a long way. So that is all we can ask for, right? After halftime, I thought this was interesting too. The Patriots are 63-0 in the regular season and the postseason when they are leading by more than 17 points in the half in the Bill Belichick era. I did see that before. I saw it during halftime, and I didn't want to comment on it because I'm very superstitious, so I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to acknowledge it, but I did save it so that I could mention it here. And I thought that was a pretty cool stat, and now they're 64-0. The Patriots got the ball after the half, which resulted in a punt. Mac was sacked again on this drive. I think this was the second time, and that was it for the rest of the game. He was sacked on 3rd and 9 for a loss of 8 yards, so it resulted in a punt. The Browns take over, which also resulted in a punt. It was a good tackle from Jawan Bentley on D'Ernest Johnson for -3 yards, which forced a 4th and 5. Then the Patriots just, they came out and they started going again. The Patriots' second drive, 8 plays, 92 yards, 5 minutes, 6 seconds, which resulted in a touchdown. They started at their own 8-yard line. Aguilar had a great play on the first down of this drive. Again, here comes Hunter Henry with a 19-yard completion. Bolden ran for 22 yards. And then he had a reception for 17, and then Kendrick Bourne for 17. And this is when Stevenson got another touchdown. So this is the first game that he has had a double touchdown. So he set records for himself twice today, or in that game, but he set a couple Patriots records as well, which I think I have listed a little bit later. So the Browns then take over, and they have a turnover on down. So Baker was sacked by both Lawrence Guy and Dietrich Wise for -8 yards. And there was a penalty on Dietrich Wise for roughing the passer. Now, off the top of my head, I can't really remember if that was an accurate call, because we know that roughing the passer has been a little bit sketchy. In general, it's always a little bit of a sketchy penalty, but this season it seems particularly that they're really calling it a lot on some plays that just doesn't make any sense. So I can't remember if this was a good one or not. Baker was then almost nearly intercepted again by Kyle Duggar, so he was on it in this game. And then he was sacked by Judon and Hightower, and this is when Baker ended up getting hurt. Now, this I know for sure had nothing to do with Judon or Hightower. If you watch the replay, Judon kind of hits him and makes sure that he's going down and then gets off of him, so none of his body weight. It looks like Baker just kind of fell the wrong way. Now, I said at the beginning, I believe they said he had something like a leg contusion or something. I'm not sure. But at this point, it was Brown 7, Patriots 31. So I guess maybe at this point they thought that there was no need for Baker to come back in, because he never came back in. Case Keenum ended up coming in after this, and then he was sacked on fourth. When they win for it on 4th and 19 by Kyle Van Noy. So not a good opening for Case Keenum either. And in his last 4 games, speaking of Kyle Van Noy, he has 4 pass breakups and now a forced fumble. So this is the type of production that we've wanted to see when Kyle Van Noy was brought back. Obviously, he was great. He was part of the boogeymen when he was on the Patriots in 2019. I think that he was a little bit silent during his time in Miami, but we're seeing that type of play again from him now, finally in November, and I think it's starting to get better and better every week. So maybe he's just feeling a little bit more comfortable. I don't know. It seems like everything's just gelling correctly on the defense now. They're just definitely a force. That was also, speaking of a force, Judon, that was his, he is now up to 9.5 sacks on the season, which is tying his career high. And we still have, 8 games to go? So he's going to set a record for himself. He's getting a sack in almost every single game. So who knows? He could end up with maybe 18 sacks. I believe he's still in the top 3. I want to say top 3 for sacks. So he's still good even amongst the NFL, not just as a Patriot, but in the NFL. And I'm so excited that they finally have, a legitimate pass rusher. Another place that has been missing for a couple years is finally back. And Judon just seems like such a cool guy, such a nice guy. So the Patriots took over again. It was 6 plays, 47 yards, 2 minutes, 59 seconds. Another touchdown. They did take over on down, so they had much better field position. They did get another first down due to defensive pass interference on Cleveland. Bourne killing it again with a reception for 15 yards. They then got another first down because of encroachment on Cleveland. And then we saw another Hunter Henry, Mac Jones connection for a 3-yard touchdown, bringing it 38 Patriots, 7 Browns. So the game was over at this point. And it was just such an amazing thing to see. I think this is when, this is when they finally turned the game off for us. If you're watching it on CBS, this is when they decided that the game was too far ahead and it was not competitive enough for people to want to watch. So they changed it to the Saints-Titans game, I believe. So this is where I wrote, CBS decided nobody wanted to watch the game anymore and decided to switch the game. And this is when I was angry and sad because I was tweeting. I was very upset. So I was trying to find a stream or trying to see clips because I missed some good stuff if I wasn't able to see it. So since I think basically this is when Brian Hoyer comes in and a few of the starters come out. I don't think Stevenson was in anymore. It was his first 100-yard game, Stevenson's. That was Hunter Henry's 7th receiving touchdown, which is the most through the Patriots' first 10 games since 2015, which would have been Gronk and Edelman, who had did that 6 years ago. It's the most touchdowns by all tight ends this year and tied for 4th overall. And the only players that have more touchdowns than Hunter Henry this year at this point is Cooper Kupp, Mike Evans, DK Metcalf, and Tyreek Hill. And over the last 7 games, who has more touchdowns is nobody. So Hunter Henry is absolutely killing it, doing exactly what we needed him to do, what Bill Belichick loves from him. And that's a really great list to be a part of. I mean, Cooper Kupp is having a year. That is, and we know Tyreek Hill is absolutely insane. So that's some great company to be in a category with. Raw94 says Kendrick might be a sneaky number 1 receiver. Possible. He's being used everywhere. I'm liking the connection. That was something that was in training camp and preseason. And it just seems to be continuing. So I love that. Patriot X says, wouldn't it be amazing for Mac Jones to be the first rookie quarterback to go to the Super Bowl? Yes, it would. That would be so insane. I'm thinking people are still probably wanting to see a Patriots-Bucks Super Bowl, but at this point, it doesn't look too great for the Bucks, but we'll see. You can't give up on Tom Brady. But, both the NFC and the AFC are kind of wide open at this point. There's not really any clear favorite on either side. Every week has just been so weird. It feels like the Super Bowl could be basically anybody at this point. Beast Mode TV says, greetings from the Go Pats crew, Germany. Sarah, hi guys. Thanks for watching. Lance Luther says Judon is a beast. Yes, he is. And I'm so thankful he's on the Patriots this year and no more on the Ravens. I am so thankful. It's just such an exciting guy. So the next Browns drive was when we finally saw Jarvis Landry for the first time, which I thought was kind of weird. Obviously, they just cut OBJ. And so I thought that they would be using Jarvis Landry a heck of a lot more than they were. And we didn't even really see him until like the third, fourth quarter. So I don't know really what's going on there, but he wasn't able to help, get a score for the Browns either. That obviously resulted in a turnover on downs. Patriots take over with Brian Hoyer, which made it their third 90-yard drive of the game. It was 6 plays, 95 yards, 4 minutes and 2 seconds for Brian Hoyer. He had a deep pass to N'Keal Harry. This is when we saw N'Keal Harry in the passing game. Like I said earlier, he had been used on the line to help block. But it seems like when Brian Hoyer comes in, he likes to use the underutilized guys, I guess, like N'Keal Harry and Gunnar Olszewski. They seem to come in clutch for Brian Hoyer when he comes into a game. So Harry had 26 yards. And they were using J.J. Taylor on this drive as well. There was a deep pass to Kendrick Bourne for 48 yards. And then Cleveland got a penalty for too many men on the field. And this is when it happened, guys. The moment that Patriots fans have been waiting for. We finally saw a touchdown pass to Jakobi Meyers for 11 yards. I was so excited when I saw that because as I said, I didn't have the game. They changed the game and there was no way I could find it. I ended up finding a stream, but it wasn't working. So I just had to watch a replay and I was so excited that it finally happened. It was his 135th career catch. I can't even remember how many yards he had at this point. Oh, well over 1,300 yards. And he finally got his touchdown. It was from Brian Hoyer, but it doesn't matter because it was a touchdown. It all counts the same. And the bench cleared. The Patriots bench cleared. The entire team met him in the end zone to celebrate with him. And I just thought that was so awesome. And he even said in the post game that everyone celebrating with him meant more to him than the actual touchdown itself. And that's the reason why I just love the Patriots. They're just such a team that genuinely cares about each other and gets excited for even though the Patriots don't like to give out like individual awards or acknowledge individual achievements. Obviously they still recognize them. They still get excited for them. And this was something that they knew how important it was and how exciting it was, not only for the team, obviously, because it was another score for them, but exciting for Jakobi and how much it meant to him to finally get that score. And, his dad has been at all of these home games and waiting to see it happen. And so it finally did. Patriot X says that was the most exciting moment. It really was. I loved to see how many people from other teams, fans of other teams, were so excited as well. So that was really cool to see because it seemed like, even if you're not a Patriots fan, it was just an exciting thing to see. I think it's been a huge talking point by a lot of people in the media, especially that he had so many yards and so many catches and hadn't had a touchdown yet. So it is what it is. It was very exciting, really cool to see the entire team celebrate with him. Even David Andrews said, I think that was today, or it might have been after the game yesterday, but he said, everyone celebrating with Jakobi, that it showed what Jakobi means to us and how much he's loved by us. And I think that's 100% true, not just by the team, but by the fans. So yeah, that was a really awesome moment, a really cool way to end the game too. Because basically the game was over the game was over at that point, but it was literally over at the end. It was towards the end of the game. The Browns had to punt on their last drive. So really cool to see. I think, one of the highlights, I think, of this season for sure. There's been a lot of great things out of these games, but I think that's something that we're going to remember for a really long time. So this was the 4th straight win for the Patriots. 5 of the last 6 have been big old W's. And it is the most games in a single season in Patriots history where they have won by more than 38 points. This is something really interesting. So far in 2021, they have had 2 games where they've won by more than 38 points. And the only other time that has happened was in 2007. And they only totaled 2 games in 2007. Now that blew my mind because I vividly remember the 2007 season and how completely dominating that team was, how good Tom Brady was, how good Randy Moss was, and Welker and everybody. I'm going to forget people, but And to think that they only won 2 games by that huge of a margin, I thought was a little it was a little crazy. And that was for the entirety of the season. The Patriots have done that so far, and there's still 8 games left. So who knows if it's going to happen again, but we can definitely embrace the 2 that have happened already. Let's getting into some stats and some really cool random things that I found. Mac Jones was 19 of 23 for 198 yards, 3 touchdowns, and as I said, he was sacked twice. Brian Hoyer had a perfect day, 3 of 3, 85 yards and a touchdown. So per the NFL, Mac Jones and Dak Prescott are the only rookie quarterbacks with at least 6 games with a completion percentage of 70 or more. In the entire history of the NFL. That's some pretty good company as well. Jones had a 142.1 rating, which is the 5th highest by a rookie quarterback in the Super Bowl era. He was 6 for 7 on passes of 10 plus yards, which I wanted to make sure to highlight because even people as recent as today were talking about him being a dink and dunk quarterback, and that was not the case yesterday. He had a lot of big throws yesterday. He was also the first rookie quarterback in Patriots history with 3 passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions in a single game. The Patriots are the 5th team since 1970 to have a rookie quarterback throw at least 2 touchdowns and a rookie running back rush for at least 2 touchdowns in a single game. And this is when I always think it's interesting. The last teams to do that were in Cleveland, Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb, and Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott. It's always crazy to me when something like that is said, and then you see how recent the only other times in NFL history it's been done, and it was literally a year or 2 ago. To me, that's insane. So good on Mac Jones and Ramondre Stevenson. I also want to give a shout out once again to the healthy offensive line and how great they have been doing at protecting Mac, because I definitely had bones to pick with them at the beginning of the year, and it was not fun to see Mac getting tossed all over the place, basically, in every game. Yesterday, they had an 81.8% pass block win rate, which is absolutely insane. It was the best by all offensive lines in the entire NFL. And the Browns came into yesterday's game ranked 2nd in the NFL in total sacks. They have a total of 27, and Myles Garrett leads the league in sacks and tackles for a loss. So he only got 1 sack yesterday. I think that he was solely credited for that. So the fact that they were able to keep them at bay, and good on, I think it was Trent Brown, Isaiah Wynn, they were all trying to keep Myles Garrett back. Of course, there were 2 sacks, but 1 I think was by Myles Garrett. He is not easy to stop, very similarly to like an Aaron Donald. And the fact they were able to actually complete that is great. And that Trent was able to do that in his first game back from a leg injury of all things. Kudos to them. In regards to Mac Jones, since I was just briefly talking about that, Trent Brown had a nice quote about him. He said, "I pretty much knew what we had the first day of OTAs. He's different. He's not just your average rookie quarterback. He has a lot of poise, but super mature. He attacks every day like it's game day. He prepares well. He's just on top of everything." So it seems like the team loves their guy exactly the same, that we've seen basically every year. But it's really cool to see them all rally around and only speak so highly of Mac. I think that really shows you what type of guy he is, and shows you he was more NFL ready than I think some people in the media were giving him credit for. And it just makes me so excited that the Patriots somehow got him. That's the thing that I think some teams should be kicking themselves over. How did you let the Patriots get Mac Jones? How did you let that happen? Especially, with the Niners moving up so far in the draft, they were said to have been somewhat interested in Mac Jones, and they ended up going elsewhere. So, we are blessed that we were able to get him at number 15 at a steal. He's playing exactly, the way that we want him to, the way that a rookie never plays. I think that's the thing too. You don't really ever see a rookie come out and play this well. Of course, there's instances where it has happened, but their record, I think, is not even that indicative of how they're playing. We know how many of those games they've lost by just one play. I mean, they took the Cowboys to overtime. They lost by 1 point to the Dolphins. Like, there are these games they very easily could have only one loss at this point. So hopefully we are trucking in the right direction as we head to Atlanta on Thursday, who got blown out by the Cowboys yesterday. What was it, like 43-3 or something like that? Not necessarily expecting it to be that big of a blowout, but definitely something nice to see for your opponent that is coming up. Hopefully they can continue the win streak. The most important thing of this entire game, though, is that there were 0 turnovers. 0 turnovers, no interceptions, no fumbles, no nothing. Another thing that was a huge issue at the beginning of the year, and definitely needing to be highlighted for this game because, those running backs had buttery fingers at the beginning of the year, and that was not an issue whatsoever yesterday. If anything, it was an issue for the Browns. Thankfully, not us. That is something definitely worth noting. As far as rushing stats go, Ramondre Stevenson came out killing it. He had 20 carries, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. And like I said, Kendrick Bourne, the Swiss Army knife, was used 3 carries for 43 yards. He was 4 of 4 for 98 yards and a touchdown in the receiving game. Hunter Henry was 4 of 4 for 37 yards and 2 touchdowns. So they had a fantastic day overall. Defensive stats, another great day. Kyle Duggar had 8 tackles, 1 pass breakup, and an interception. Juwan Bentley, 7 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, 1 quarterback hit. Hightower, 6 tackles, half a sack, a quarterback hit. Kyle Van Noy, 5 tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for a loss, 1 quarterback hit. Dietrich Wise, 4 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 2 quarterback hits. Lawrence Guy, half a sack, 1 quarterback hit. Deshaun Bauer, 1 sack, 1 tackle for a loss, 1 quarterback hit. So they were all over Baker Mayfield and Case Keenum. Hopefully they can continue that against Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan can definitely be a lot more dangerous than Baker Mayfield or Case Keenum, if we're being honest. And they have a good backfield too. Cordell Patterson is really good. Former Patriot, one of my favorite former Patriots. JC Jackson is also doing phenomenally. He came into this game already doing great, but he ended this game with 5 targets, 0 catches, and 2 pass breakups. And the rest of the Patriots back or secondary, they held wide receivers to only 5 catches on 16 yards or 16 targets and 42 yards. So a wonderful day, all involved. I don't think that you could ask for a better game defensively. There's really nothing I feel like really nitpick, which is always awesome. Trent Brown earned the highest PFF grade of any Patriots O lineman in his first game back yesterday. He allowed only 1 hurry and 21 pass blocking snaps and was their highest graded run blocker. So again, Trent Brown's importance, I could not stress that enough. Definitely somebody that I think most Patriots fans were excited about having back this year. And now that he's back from injury. Hopefully he can stay healthy for the rest of the year and keep playing like this, because I think it's only going to benefit Mac completely. The beginning of the year he was playing okay, but the last few games he's played pretty great. And if Trent can keep playing at that level, then the sky is the limit for Mac, really. And then let's see. So they had a total of 5 sacks, 4 tackles for a loss, 5 pass breakups, and 10 quarterback hits. They were able to hold Keenum and Baker to being 19 of 33, 118 yards, and 1 touchdown. There were 2 sacks on Mayfield and 3 on Keenum, which is crazy because Keenum came in and after halftime, or was it before halftime? I don't know, but still 3 sacks in such a short period of time is crazy. The rushing totals were 20 carries, 99 yards. Receiving was 119 of 31 for 154 yards. And the Browns had 2 sacks, 5 tackles for a loss, 1 pass breakup, and 2 quarterback hits. So not really getting anywhere near Mac Jones, which we love to see. And as far as breaking down the game in a little bit of a different way, the Browns had 17 first downs to the Patriots 30. Passing for first downs, the Browns had 12. The Patriots had 17. First down from penalties, the Browns had 1. The Patriots had 3. So they definitely benefited from those penalties quite a bit yesterday. I don't know that it would have been a huge concern if they weren't gifted those from penalties, but still worth noting. Third down efficiency, the Browns were 1 of 11. The Patriots were 7 of 9. Fourth down efficiency, the Browns were 2 of 4. The Patriots didn't have to do anything on fourth down. So fortunately, that is a big old 0. And let's see, the Patriots had a total of 452 yards to the Browns 217. Yards per play, the Patriots had 7.3 to the Browns 3.7. Penalties, the Patriots had 6 for 46. And the Browns had 6 for 42, so people can't blame penalties for a reason why the Patriots won, or is that somehow the referees bailed them out again, as people love to say. And the time of possession was the Patriots just dominated on all aspects, 34 minutes, 2 seconds to the Browns, 25 minutes, 58 seconds. There was just nowhere the Patriots did not obliterate the Browns. It was a terrible day for the Browns yesterday, wonderful day for the Patriots. Just a great overall team win. Patriots X says Cordell Patterson could miss Thursday Night Football due to an ankle sprain. I did not know that. I have him on one of my fantasy teams, so I'll have to look. I did not know that. Good to know. Thank you for telling me. Ron94 says JC Jackson has been shut down. Not only that, he'll intercept you if you keep throwing his way. Pay him, I say. Yes, no, I agree. That's what I've been saying all season. I was a little skeptical coming into this season if he would be able to be that cornerback 1 that we needed, especially with Gilmore out at the beginning of the year, and then obviously eventually he was traded. I was concerned, that I expressed those concerns, but he's playing at a much higher level than I anticipated. And I think that I don't know if the new contract or the potential of making a bunch of money this offseason is at any motivation for him. But I really hope that Belichick is taking notes and will hopefully give him a good contract. He's a young guy. He's really good. And I would hate to see him walk away when he's playing like this. I hate the idea of the Patriots going in with no real cornerbacks next season. I would just hate for both Gilmore and JC to leave. That would be really disappointing as a fan, and I think for the team in general. Especially, the defense is older than I think a lot of other defenses. McCourty is probably getting close to possibly retiring. We know Slater is probably getting close to retiring. Who knows? There's Hightower and whatnot. So I think he is a staple piece that if they can keep him and get him at a good price, but totally what he deserves, then I am all for that. So fingers crossed. I don't even want to think about the the off season yet because it always makes me so nervous and there's so many people going to free agency. So I can't even think about that at this moment because we don't have to worry about that for 3-4 months. So anyway, thanks guys for joining me today. As I said, this week is going to be a little different. I might be back on Wednesday to talk about the Falcons game. If not, I will for sure be back on Friday to talk about the result of the Falcons game. And then we have an open Sunday. You can watch whatever game you want, or you could, go out and do whatever you want. I'll be watching football. I don't know what games yet, but it's going to be weird to go 10 days without seeing the Patriots. So have a good Sunday, or have a good Sunday in the future, because I'll see you guys on Friday. But thank you guys for joining me today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, follow me on Twitter, all that good stuff. And I will see you guys later this week. Go Pats!